Welcome to the Principal Podcast today. This is Xane Anderson. I am honored to have on my show today, Steph Katzovi. She is a lawyer, a children's author, a speechwriter, a wife, a mother, and I'm so thrilled to have her all the way from New York here on the show. Welcome, Steph.
Thanks so much for having me, Xane. It's a pleasure to be with you.
So tell us a little bit about you. Tell me about your journey to becoming a children's book author.
Well, like anybody that has many career aspirations in their life, I think it's a long and winding road. I started out professionally as an attorney, well, technically a non-practicing attorney. I went to law school and knew probably in the first few days that being a practicing attorney wasn't for me, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I've always wanted to be an author. However, I think when I first started out professionally, I didn't think I could manage to survive on a salary that a writer might get paid with zero professional experience. So I decided to go to an alternative path of writing and became a corporate communications specialist. So essentially, I was a writer for someone else for many years. And I wrote for some amazing people at Deloitte, the professional services firm, and just really got a chance to sort of listen to people, hear what people had to say, figure out how to tell their stories in an interesting way, often in a professional context. And then after about 15 years of doing that, the executive that I was supporting was going to retire. And so I thought, I have two young kids at home, and going back to my original aspiration of wanting to become an author, maybe I'm going to retire too and devote myself to those two practices. I guess it was a lot of practice with the children, but the writing aspect. And so that's what I did. And it was a really challenging experience, to say the least. But ultimately, I think it'll be one of the most rewarding things that I ended up doing in life.
That's wonderful. Gosh, that's great. Tell me this, what do you want readers to take away from your work?
I think a lot of why I'm inspired to write is because, we all have stories that we want to share. And in my case, I hope to save people the steps of making mistakes along the way, particularly as it relates to children. And I think, the reason that I write for children is because they have a lot of feelings and emotions that aren't always acknowledged or appreciated because maybe they're younger or maybe they haven't gone through all the different experiences that we grown-ups have gone through. But I think part of why I write is to give voice to those feelings and hopefully to help set a path for kids to see, like, you can accomplish things at whatever age you are, and the challenges that you experience at whatever age you might be are probably challenges you're going to end up facing as you grow older in life. And so if I can do that in a relatable, funny way, I think that's kind of what I set out for myself when I first began writing. And if I can help others just achieve what they hope to achieve in whatever number of years they've had on Earth, then I'd be happy to help set that path for them.
That's wonderful. One of the things that you mentioned that I really, really admire, and I think a lot of times it's hard for people to make this transition to say, hey, I'm going to be a working mom and now I'm going to be home and being an author as well. But I'm saying, and being home with my kids. And I think sometimes in the world, people discount the influence that a good parent has. And, I've talked about this some in other shows, but just that, we can build stuff in the business world and it may last for, however long it lasts. It could last for decades. It could last for a few years. Most businesses these days they've found are probably in a decade or two going to be bankrupt, disrupted, bought, sold, totally changed. Some will be irrelevant. But that influence that you have on your own children, and I love that you're writing to children as well, because what a great audience, kids who are moldable. But tell us a little bit more about that transition to be from being a full-time corporate speechwriter to being home with your children. And I'd love to hear about that.
Well, you know what? The first reaction that I had to your question was the transition from working outside the home to working within the home, I think was a bit of a culture shock for me. Working in a corporate environment, this was pre-COVID, you go to an office every day, you sit in an office or a cubicle, you get your work done. If you need to get something done faster, you speed up the process. And when I left working at in the corporate environment, and it was just me at home basically, and it was a really big awakening to say, okay, well, I know I need to do certain things in the house, but nobody's telling me what schedule to follow, and
Mm.
what are the different steps that I need to take to accomplish all the things that need to get accomplished. And in a household, it's a lot different than, you have a boss breathing down your neck waiting for something. Like in a household, you might have children screaming, you might have a wet load of laundry, food that needs to, be put away. And yeah, I took a lot from being able to be productive in a corporate setting. I thought that, there's great validation in getting a paycheck and seeing what your worth is, from some objective measurement. But you know what? I also realized that although I might not be getting something deposited in the bank every week when I'm fortunate enough to be with my children, it's almost as rewarding just to see them grow. I have two boys, I should say, and to see my two boys grow up and become really considerate, kind, wonderful human beings. I don't know if I could have ever traded that for, whatever accolades I might have gotten at work, because there really, in my opinion, is no substitute for being a great parent and raising great children. And when you can do that, it's, in a way, it's creating sort of like the cascading effect around the world. And, a lot of problems probably could be solved if more parents had the time and the capability to really be as hands-on as I'm sure so many people out there want to be.
Oh man, I got tingles when you said that, Steph. I got tingles as you said that, just that sometimes you may not get the immediate accolades and saying, here's the paycheck or here's the recognition or look at what we've done today at the work. But being able to see your sons, correct, grow up to be awesome sons and they need having your influence there. That's awesome. I really, really appreciate you sharing that. Tell us a little bit. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say it's really rewarding, but then there are some days where you're wondering maybe I should go to an office and escape all this madness. But truth be told, it is wonderful.
Right. And I think a lot of people feel that like, man, couldn't I be doing something else? Nobody's giving me any accolades here. But the interesting thing is those accolades, even though they're not immediate, I'm sure that your children appreciate you being willing to.
I think so. I think so. They don't appreciate when I serve them broccoli at dinner, but I think there's something that, I'm the constant in our house. My husband works a lot and he's home as much as he can. And I wish, we could all spend a lot more time together, but life is life. So, it's good that there's at least one parent that can be present for my kids, and I love being that source of constant because I'm a person that loves that in my life. I love routine. I like schedules. And so we're just super, super fortunate that that's the arrangement that we have in place.
That's wonderful. Tell me this, is there anything or anyone that inspires you, Steph?
I think, there's a lot of great wisdom out there, but one of the quotes that has been most impactful, I think, on my adult life is one that I read from Mahatma Gandhi, which is, in a gentle way, you can shake the world. And, I thought a lot about what does it mean to me? Like, what's my mission statement for why I want to be an author and what I want to do with my work. And my goal in writing is essentially to promote positive values, confidence, and kindness in kids. And I hope to inspire children to be their best selves. But as you know, there are a lot of different messages out there in this world and a lot of different points of contact that people have. And I'm somebody that's still coming into this profession, trying to make a difference. And so that's kind of the gentle way that I'm trying to shake the world is, by one book, by two books, if I'm lucky, three, who knows, we'll see. But kids have so many role models to choose from. And if I could give them a good option through my work, I would be, totally beyond excited and honored if that could be a role I play in someone's life.
Tell me a little bit more specifically about some of the writing you've done, like maybe a specific book or chapter even, or something that you think could that you've written for children?
Well, I published a book that is called Hurricane this past spring, and I'm working on a second sequel to the novel. It's a children's book for 8 to 12-year-olds, and it's about a young girl's topsy-turvy experiences her first time away at sleepaway camp, and it explores the challenges she faces as she becomes more independent and the complicated relationships of preteens, and then her road to discovering inner courage. And because, this is a book for children and all great stories have plenty of drama, this happens right in the middle of a hurricane. So, I've used that as sort of a backdrop for showing that kids are quite capable to achieve amazing things when they're presented with a big challenge in life. In this case, it was a young girl being independent for the first time away from her parents. And it's a struggle that I encountered as a child myself. So this was the seeds for an interesting story that was a really interesting, fun process for me, just to kind of unpack what I went through as a child from the perspective of an adult.
So let me ask you this. Is there anything that you regret about changing from this corporate speechwriter, high power, you're writing for a major, executive at a major corporation, being in demand, getting accolades, and then moving over to being a mom and embracing your creative authorship? Was there anything that you regret during that?
I've thought about that a lot because my kids are getting older now, and I realize that my role in their lives is going to take on a different position as they become more independent themselves. And so I wondered, did I step away from the corporate world and I should have stayed in it? And so there's a part of me that says, what if I did that? What would life be like for me? What would life be like for my kids and my family? And honestly, I don't know if I regret, taking a break from that, because I think when you have the skills and experience, for me, it's writing in a variety of different forms. But I think if you've got the skills and the experience, there's always some way you can find your way back, whether it's doing something similar or, going back to somewhere that I was before. I don't know if I ever really would, go back, but, there's a part of me that says, if I really wanted to, I bet I could find a way. So
Sure.
I try and park the idea that maybe there's an element of regret for leaving, as I took a different path, and perhaps if I need to wind my way back, I might be able to. But,
Sure.
I also think there's other things out there that I would be interested in pursuing, but I have yet to figure out what it is that might be just yet.
Tell us about a great moment you had with your sons, now that you were there for them and more available to them. Curious about that.
One of the things that comes into mind was right after they went back to school this September. My older son, who's in 6th grade, was in English class, and the students were asked to say, what was your favorite book that you read this summer? And one of the girls in his class mentioned my book, and she said, I love the book Horror Camp. It was my favorite book that I read this summer. And then another child in the class said, hey, isn't that your mom? And my son said, yeah, it is. And the teacher said, you must be really proud of her. And he said, I am really proud of her. It's a good book. And, it was kind of like, that was a moment that crystallized for me as when I became an author, I wanted to have an impact on someone, but didn't realize that my children would see me in a different light than just their mom. They knew I used to work in an office, but they never really saw me doing anything other than, providing for their needs. And so that was a really great moment, I think, not only for them, but for me to feel sort of validated that this is a good path I'm on.
Right. That's wonderful. So I feel like in a gentle way, you are starting to shake the world, as Mahatma Gandhi said. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the hope. I don't think that you can go out and, be a big presence immediately. There's so many amazing authors out there, and I think there's room for everybody. But, I'm going to keep pushing, my message and my beliefs of, just putting quality content out for kids the best that I can. And hopefully I'll start being able to shake a little harder as time goes on, and, we'll see. It's just like a very exciting time to be, creating something in the world that you're proud of and that you're passionate about. And so, it's an exciting journey. And not knowing the end result is unsettling for a person like me, but just the process of taking that path is, I think I will find to be quite rewarding.
I think that's wonderful. And it's a path that you can be proud of. Your children are obviously proud of you. You're not afraid to share what you're doing with your kids. And I think that's wonderful. I
Yeah,
really
the
do.
best part is that my kids, are at the age where they are the demographic that I'm trying to write to. So I take a lot of really great stories from their everyday experiences, and they don't even have to try, but they give me great content for future work. So I'm furiously writing down so many things when they come home from school and tell me about their day, and I'm like, oh, that could be a really interesting subplot. So it's wonderful that they're finally of the age where they can contribute without realizing they're contributing.
Do you feel like since you left the speechwriter world and became an author that it made you a better parent because you were pursuing kind of this creative focus that you wanted to do more?
I think so. As a speechwriter, I was so focused on trying to emulate other people that when it was time for me to take a step back and think about what are the voices that I want to personify, I think it was helpful that I had that background. I've always been a good listener, and I've always sort of absorbed other people's stories, and I appreciate hearing about people's experiences. So it's a great way to just sort of wrap it all together and see, what I can come out with that's both creative and enjoyable and funny, and hopefully, the start of something where I can write future works that take into account lots of other perspectives and other people's experiences.
Well, my guess is that there may be on this show moms who are in the corporate world who kind of envy what you've done, and they probably want to pursue being at home with their children more and following something that's dear to them, a creative something.
Mhm.
What would you say to those moms?
I would say if you can do it, you should do it. I didn't think a lot about how I would go about, creating a schedule for myself, or, how I would balance the obligations at home with the obligations that I wanted to pursue professionally. But having a great support network, whether it's your partner, your family, your friends, or your community, engaging with anyone that could help you, whether it's, being physically present or just providing you with that mental support, is huge. And for me, it was a lot about just feeling confident that this is the right choice. And once you've come to grips with the fact that this is going to be your path for a while, and accept whatever success you're going to define as, this was a good day, this wasn't such a great day. Every day that you move forward, I think, however big or small, is when you find life fulfilling from those things, that I think would make it all worthwhile. So it's just taking that first step and feeling confident that this is a good choice for you. That would be, I guess, a long-winded piece of advice.
I like that. I like that. Well, I think you are. I think you are in a gentle way shaking the world, which is great. You're following what you're this creative passion and being a mom, which is going to have this huge effect for generations, probably more than even being a corporate speechwriter, and if influencing children who are at an age where they can use good, positive messages. Thank you so much for being on the show. Where can people find you, Steph?
You can visit me on my website, www.stephkatzovi.com, and that's Steph with a PH. I'm also on Instagram, Steph Katzovi, and on Facebook, Steph Katzovi Lit, Lit. And then, you can always find me via email from any of those different places. And I'd love to hear from you. If you have any stories you want to share, I am always collecting them. So keep in touch.
Wonderful. Steph Katzovi, such an honor to have you on the show. Thank you for being here. Anything else you would tell our listeners today before we go?
I would say, if you could find your own gentle way to shake the world, whatever it is, and what can you do to help make the world a better place? We can all pitch in somehow.
Awesome. Thank you again, Steph, for being on the show.
Thank you so much. This was really fun. It was such a great opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Steph. I am so jealous of my wife because she gets the ultimate career. She gets to train and nurture and love our children more than I get to because I have to be doing things like this podcast. Parenting's the ultimate career. If you like what you heard today, please like, subscribe, comment, leave a review. Thank you for listening. You can also check out my book, What I Want My Children to Know Before I Die. It's available on Amazon and other bookstores. Thanks again for listening.